A Silicon Valley startup in 1983, Intuit had a vision to back small business. Since then, we've grown to create purpose-built accounting products and solutions like QuickBooks. By having a suite of purpose-built products and offering award-winning help every step of the way so that you and your clients thrive. Because in a fast-paced, ever-changing world, you need to be one step ahead. We don't fear change, we embrace it. Because change can be a catalyst for good.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to December's Pro Power Hour. This is our last one for the year. My name is Megan Wood. I head up Advisor Product Marketing at Intuit Australia, and I'm your host for today's session. Now, it's great having so many of you join us today, but before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that we meet on today and pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. Now, today's Pro Power Hour is all about productivity and planning. So we want to highlight some of the things you need to have on your radar, things to start planning for. We also want to dive into some of the strategies and the tips and tools that can help you be more productive so that you can claw back some of that time for the planning and preparation work that we know we've got to do, but sometimes find it hard to find the time. I'm sure everyone on the call is familiar with our flagship product, Quickbooks Online, as it's used by over 300,000 accountants and bookkeepers, as well as over 5 million small businesses globally. Some of you, though, may not be aware of the functionality of Quickbooks Online Accountant. It's a tool that helps smaller accounting and bookkeeping firms to manage their clients, manage their workflow, track their time, and bill their clients. And I'm going to be showing you a couple of QBOA's time-saving features later in the webinar. Now, before we get started, I've got to take you through some housekeeping. So we've had over 300 people register for today's event, and so we've put you all on mute, but we will have a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. So if you have any questions that pop up during the session, certainly feel welcome to pop them into Slido, and we'll aim to answer as many of those as we can. Now, today's event is being recorded, so everyone that is registered for today's event will receive a link to the recording. So keep an eye out for that arriving in your inbox, because it's a great way to review any of the content that you see today, as well as share it with another team member. Now, if you're having any technical difficulties and not being able to see or hear the presentation, we suggest restarting your device, refreshing your browser, or trying a different device. You'll also see at the bottom of the screen there's a troubleshooting guide that also provides a link to an alternate video browser if you need it. Again, you will be receiving a recording of today's session, so whilst it's not as good as looking at the live thing, you won't miss a thing. Now, when it gets to demo time, which is my section today, we recommend that you maximise the screen by clicking on the expand icon. But please note, it takes a few moments for the screen to render, so it might look a little bit blurry just for a few seconds, but then it should clear up. And finally, we're going to be running a couple of polls during today's session. So that's just to get you involved and to get your thoughts on the particular topic. So keep an eye out for those. And on that point, we're actually going to have a poll straight out of the gates. So a nice simple one. Now, today is the first day of summer, which is awesome. So given the drenching that the East Coast has had, certainly over the last week, very simple question. How is the weather where you are today? So on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being wet, miserable, awful, through to a 10 being an absolutely perfect day for the first day of summer, tell us what it looks like where you are. Now, I'm beaming to you from Melbourne, and it's not often that I can say that our weather is a 9 or a 10. So I'm pretty stoked we've got that for the first day of summer. So I can see, yep, the responses coming through. Thank you for that. A little bit of a bell curve here. We've obviously got a few people on the East Coast on the call today. So thank you so much. Thanks for your input and getting involved in that poll. And there's still a couple more to come, so keep an eye out for them. Now that the housekeeping is out of the way, let's have a look at today's session. So today you're going to be hearing from Michael McQueen. Michael is a trend forecaster and the best-selling author of 9 books. He's helped some of the world's most successful companies navigate disruption and maintain momentum. He has a real passion for the accounting, bookkeeping, and financial services space, so he is definitely in the right room. Now, he may look familiar to some of you. Michael actually spoke at our last QuickBooks Connect event in Melbourne. It was incredibly well received. And today, Michael will look at how COVID has accelerated trends in technology and society, including how it's reshaped your clients' demands. You're also going to hear from Shay Thayer, the head of accounting here at Intuit. Now, Shay is an accountant, and she played a strategic role in transitioning a tier 2 firm to the cloud. She now leads the team responsible for supporting our accounting and bookkeeping partners through cloud accounting solutions and modern practice digitization. Now, Shay will be covering some key things of what you need to do to prepare for a successful 2022, including the importance of client review, reviewing your firm's cash flow, billing and payments processes, and how to build on client will from transitioning to from a trusted advisor to a valued business partner. Then you'll hear my squeaky voice again. Today we're going to be showcasing a few time-saving features in QuickBooks Online, as well as QuickBooks Online Accountant, that will help you set up your clients for a successful 2022, as well as help you manage your workflow more effectively. So with that, I'm going to hand to our first speaker, the wonderful and very informative Michael McQueen.
Well, thank you so much, Megan, for that very generous introduction. Thanks to the QuickBooks crew for the invitation to be able to spend a couple of minutes with you today as we turn our attention to the future. You know, what does the next sort of 3 to 5 years look like, and how do we get ready for that post-COVID world that many of us are really, really looking forward to? I mean, it's been a really challenging couple of years. I mean, disruption's become a very real concept to all of us over the last 18 to 24 months. And it's only natural as we get toward the end of 2021 to pause and reflect on everything that we've learned and everything that we've gone through and what it means. And I think the best reflection I've come across looking at the impact of the COVID pandemic is from a guy named Lauren Padelford. And Padelford is a VP at Shopify over in the US. And about 12 months ago, reflecting on the first wave of the pandemic and what it had represented, what it has meant for businesses, here's what he said here. He said, COVID has acted like a time machine. What it did, he said, is it brought 2030 forward to 2020. And I reckon that is absolutely bang on. And there are so many trends that we thought were sort of 5 to 10, even 15 years away that actually emerged and materialized over the last 12 to 18 months because of this pandemic. And this is incredibly significant. In fact, for those of you who were at the QuickBooks Connect event back in 2019 when I spoke here in Melbourne, or if you're at some of the international events in San Jose or in Toronto or in London, we spoke about a number of trends that even at that point I thought were sort of 5 to 10 years away that actually became a reality for all of us over the last little while. And you think about this from a very practical perspective, how we've seen a lot of these trends speed up. And for instance, think about the demise of cash. I mean, we've been talking for years about moving toward a cashless society. And yet the trend toward that has still been a relatively slow thing because you have people like my mum out there who still love to just carry some cash with her. And we've seen behavior in consumers being slow to change until suddenly the pandemic hit. And stores said, you know what, you can't use cash because it's not hygienic. And all of a sudden you saw consumers shift their habits and expectations almost overnight. In fact, in the space of just a few weeks, we saw about 10 years of consumer behavioral change when it came to the use of cash. And of course, many of these expectations and habits are going to stick post-pandemic. Now, interestingly too, you look at the use of things like QR codes and how that's changed. I mean, up until the pandemic, I would not have used a QR code for, I reckon, 5 or 6 years. This was a technology that never really reached its potential until all of a sudden a pandemic hit. And we had to check in places and do contact tracing. And then all of a sudden you had one technology platform that everyone in society knew how to use. And this is significant because this is changing the way that organizations and businesses are now connecting with their customers and their clients. In fact, check out this example here. Up on the screen behind me is actually an example of the world's first Airborne QR code. And this thing was launched a few months ago in the skies above Shanghai. This is 1,500 drones flying in formation. And this thing actually worked like a normal QR code. You could hold your phone up to the sky, and what loaded on this was a marketing message for a new streaming platform that had been launched the day before. And we're seeing this actually play out in some other really cool ways also. I love this example here from Kellogg's. Kellogg's have begun to actually put QR codes on their breakfast cereal packaging. And the idea of these is that they're for people with vision impairment. So as you're walking down the grocery aisle in the store, you can actually hold your phone, and you can do this up to 3 meters away from the box. Your phone will pick up that QR code and actually read out to you audibly the ingredients or the allergy notifications of what's in that cereal. The stuff that the rest of us might naturally read actually gets read out to you. Just a brilliant example from an equity perspective of using QR codes in a really cool way. Now, From an accounting and bookkeeping perspective, we've seen the last 24 months or so really accelerate a few significant trends in this profession as well. And of course, we've talked for years about the changing role of an accountant or a bookkeeper from being, and I spoke about this back at the QuickBooks Connect event in 2019, this shifting of the archetypal role from being the scorekeeper at the end of the match or the end of the financial year to being the coach on the sidelines, working hand in hand with clients, being that trusted advisor. And we've talked about this for a number of years. What we saw though in the pandemic is this became a reality for a whole lot of our clients because they got squeezed. And they suddenly realized the importance of getting trusted financial advice from accountants and bookkeepers, but also having super clear visibility over everything happening in their businesses. It became an important time to know exactly where things were at. Now, a really cool piece of research I came across from the QuickBooks team a few months ago actually looked at how the trusted advisor as an archetypal role has really been elevated in the minds of our clients. And this is incredibly encouraging data when you consider just what the pandemic has meant in terms of recasting the role of accountants and bookkeepers. For instance, 57% of our clients say that they would actually have struggled to survive, to get through this pandemic, if not for you. If not for your input, if not for you being available and being able to help them figure out how to navigate this minefield of the last couple of years. And what this has built is massive trust and massive affinity from accountant to client, which is going to be brilliant from a loyalty perspective. And I mean, trust is such an important asset really for all of us in the coming years. I love this one here, 54% said they actually sought more financial advice in the last 12 to 18 months than they have ever before. Significantly more reliant on the input and advice that you can give. And check this out here, 59% said that actually your advice translated to tangible financial results, whether it was either increased revenue or increased access to government support, JobKeeper and JobSeeker, just helping again clients navigate all of that. And this was in the order of $500 to $40,000 in the case for some clients. So we've seen that role of trusted advisor really become elevated over the last few years, which is incredibly exciting news. The question for us all now, rather than looking back at what has changed, is to look forward. Like, how do we gear up for this post-COVID world? And as I'm working with clients right now, there are two mindsets that I'm finding are essential if we're going to win in this post-COVID environment. The first key is simply this. We need to think tides, not waves. And I often use this as a metaphor to describe the sort of trends we actually need to be paying attention to if we're going to gear up for the future. Because, the trends that are like waves, you think of a wave at the beach. A wave at the beach is loud and it's exciting, but its impact is short-lived. A wave crashes ashore and then it retreats, doesn't really leave a permanent mark. And yet, in contrast, tides are silent. They are slower moving. It's easy to actually miss the changing of the tide if you don't know where to look. But over time, a tide will change the entire shape of the coastline. And if we're not careful right now, we can so easily get distracted by the wave-like trends, the things that are essentially fads, the next big thing that actually never really turns into anything. And we've all seen that in the accounting and bookkeeping world over the last few years. But what are the tidal trends? What are those slower moving silent trends that will be absolute game changers and industry redefiners over the next few years? And I want to look at just a couple of tidal trends that I'm keeping an eye on right now across different industries and ones that probably will be reflected in many of your clients and their experience. The first of these has been the acceleration of digitization, particularly the use of machine learning and artificial intelligence. And this is something that we spoke about briefly at QuickBooks Connect in 2019, looking at a number of tools that were really sort of coming into their own. One particularly that if you were there, you may well remember, you may have checked this out after we crossed paths at that event, was a technology called Crystal Knows. And if you haven't seen this, you might want to check it out, because Crystal Knows, here's what it does, and it can revolutionize your engagement with clients. But also if you've got a team, a staff team, this is incredibly valuable from a staff leadership perspective. What this technology does is it allows you to plug someone's name into this system. Maybe it's a new client you've never met before. You've got to have a Zoom meeting or a Microsoft Teams meeting and you're like, how do I connect with them? How do I really build rapport quickly with this person? Plug their name into Crystal Knows, and this system in a nanosecond uses some very clever AI, and it scours the web and looks at everything that person has liked, shared or followed, and comes back to you with a bit of a cheat sheet of the best way to connect with that person, the best way to build rapport with that individual. So it sort of overlays sentiment analysis and personality profiling. And I've got to say, back in 2019, when I first spoke about this at QuickBooks Connect, it was like this was still a fringe technology. We've seen this really come into its own over the last 2 years, as increasingly people have got to connect with clients in a remote environment where you're not sitting down face to face. It's hard to build some of that rapport. It's hard to get a gut feel for how to connect with that client. I was actually doing some work with the sales and marketing team around Asia Pacific for Thomson Reuters a few months ago, and they were telling me about 20 to 25% of their team, their sales team, have been using this over the last little while as essentially a pre-screening or preparation tool for jumping onto calls, particularly Zoom or Teams calls, with new clients. And so we're seeing that the way we're interacting with each other is beginning to change. We're seeing in the professional services space, technology like this can be a real gift. I've got to say, I'm still not sure if it's really cool or a bit creepy, Crystal knows. But regardless of whether it's cool or creepy, I wonder what your sense of this is. It's incredibly powerful. And again, it's some of the example of this use of AI and machine learning that's really becoming part of our day-to-day life. Of course, if we look at the accounting and bookkeeping world, one of the very interesting areas of digitization that we've seen really rapidly speed up over the last little while has been around the use of blockchain. And from a transaction monitoring perspective, we're seeing blockchain already changing the way we're engaging with clients and their data, the level of visibility you can have where everyone, because it's a distributed ledger, everyone has access to the same data in real time, regardless of which party is involved in working on that data. And then of course you look at the role of smart contracts and how we're seeing that begin to change the way clients are engaging with other parties, but also with those who are managing their affairs, be they bookkeepers or accountants or their lawyers. We're seeing this beginning to really change the whole world of accounting and compliance. What I'm finding interesting though is this, and you've probably picked this up in speaking with some of your clients too. This is beginning to change the whole notion of what asset classes are for our clients. And this is interesting. For instance, you look at the use of NFTs and people who are purchasing those as an asset class and using cryptocurrencies. The number of your clients that are now accepting cryptocurrencies as a payment mechanism for their products and services. What's interesting though is we're seeing a lot of clients have absolutely no idea the tax implications of this stuff. In fact, I want to put it to you, the next few years are going to be a huge time of opportunity for actually guiding clients through this to understand what some of these new asset classes actually mean. Now, to underscore just how significant this is going to be, check out this data from the Financial Planning Association that was released a few months ago that actually looked at consumer expectations and also the advice that financial advisors are giving. So you see over on the left there, between 2020 and 2021, people who are inquiring about cryptocurrencies and getting hold of them has jumped from 17% of clients to almost half, 49%. And check out this here, the number of financial advisors who are actually advising clients actively to buy this stuff, to get into cryptocurrencies, has gone from less than 1% in 2020 to 14% this year. This is significant. And again, from a tax and accounting perspective, opens up a massive opportunity. So that's the first tidal trend, is around the acceleration of digitization. Number two, the second tidal trend to keep a close eye on is the reworking of work. And I think one of the most lasting legacies of the COVID pandemic has been a change in the way that we work, the way that we engage with each other in the office, whether the office is even still relevant. And I'm sure in your context, this has been something that you've grappled with. We all have over the last 18 to 24 months. And I'm not sure what your remote work experience has been like. Maybe for you, your remote work experience was this blissful time of like working in your pajamas, not having to commute, loving the lack of interruptions from colleagues in a workplace setting. Maybe for you, your working from home environment was a little bit more like this. And my wife and I have a 6-year-old, so trying to do kindergarten, homeschooling was a nightmare. And some of you probably had that sort of experience, and it's been pretty tricky. In fact, I'm curious, if you just give a rating from 1 to 10, jump into the chat thread. If you had to score what your remote work experience has been like from 1 to 10, 1 is that you hated it, you couldn't wait for it to be over and get back to the office. 10 was like, you actually loved it, it worked well for you. Jump into the chat thread. What was it for you between 1 and 10? And regardless of what your experience was, it required a massive learning curve for all of us. We had to get up to speed with a whole lot of new technologies and ways of working. I love this little video here, my favorite video from the pandemic, that underscores just how much of a learning curve it really was. Check this out here.
Mr. Ponton, I believe you have a filter turned on in the video settings. You might want to
can you hear me, Judge?
I can hear you. I think it's a filter.
It is, and I don't know how to remove it. I've got my assistant here. She's trying to, but I'm prepared to go forward with it. I'm here live. I'm not a cat.
I can see that.
Now, if you haven't seen that video before, you're welcome. Okay, if you have seen that, you're probably like me, just enjoy watching it over and over again. I mean, this lawyer dialing in, not realizing a cat filter is turned on. We've all had those sort of experiences over the last little while. And regardless of what their experience of remote work has been like, the big question for all of us right now, not just for us, but also for our clients, is what does the new world of work actually look like? And some really interesting research to that effect has been done by the crew at McKinsey's that looked at how people expect to work now versus pre-pandemic in terms of their attitudes and mindsets. So if you look at pre-pandemic, the number of people who wanted to work full-time in an office, almost 2/3, because they'd never known anything different. So 62% wanted to work full-time on-site. Hybrid was about 30%, and only 8% wanted to work remotely full-time. Now, if you compare that with, and this was back in July, so before the most recent series of lockdowns, this is how the data had changed. Only 37% wanted to go back to the office full-time. Now you've got over half who actually say, you know what, we want to work hybrid. So like 2 days in the office, 3 days at home, or vice versa. And only 11%, only a slight increase in people who actually want to work remotely full-time. There is still a place for the office, but our engagement with it is going to be different. Now, interestingly, in the same study, the McKinsey crew asked people, if your boss demands you to go back to the office full-time, what will you do? Now check out this here. Globally, on average, 30% of people would say they'll look for a different job. You've heard about the Great Resignation probably over the last few months. This is a big part of what's driving this. Now in Australia, it was 42% of people said they were likely to look for a new role if their boss demanded them to go back to the office full time, which is a really significant thing for the way we engage with our colleagues. How do we build culture within a team, but also how do we engage with our clients as they're increasingly working in that hybrid environment, right? Number 3, the third title trend is around a shift in our client base. And we've talked a lot about millennials over the last few years, but the next group hot on their heels, Generation Z, this is where our focus has got to be. Because Generation Z, they're all grown up. I mean, they've finished TAFE and university. They're actually in the workforce now. They're not just like teenagers anymore. And if you look at who this Generation Z cohort are, a bit of headline data here. So the group born between the late 1990s and the early 2010s. So for some of you, that's your kids, and it's going to be your future team members and certainly your future clients. They're about 35% of the global population. They're about 18 to 19% of the population here in Australia. Huge amount of consumer spending power. They're a cashed up bunch. For them, everything's got to be video first, and it's got to be on their mobile phone. You find for them that is the best way to get a message or content through to them. And for them, issues of equity and sustainability are like non-negotiables for Generation Z, which is critical from an employer-employee relationship perspective. And if you have time, that'd be something that'd be good to come back and touch on. Interestingly, they look at how this group are connecting with each other and ideally with you as an organization or as a professional. Now, up on the screen here are 6 of the most common apps that Gen Z are using right now. And I wonder, as you look at them, how many of these you actually don't even know what they are. Now, if you're like me, you probably know a few of these, but maybe there's some of these you've never heard of. This is when you start to feel old, by the way. Now, here are the 6 apps up on the screen here. Give you a sense of the technology that this group are using. And when we look at the way they're connecting with each other, it's not just socially, the way they're using apps has changed. In fact, from a professional perspective, a really interesting piece of research that came out in Fast Company a few months ago looked at how for Generation Z, email is passé. They are not using it anywhere near as much as previous generations were. In fact, if you look at the ways that different generations are connecting or collaborating, so this is people who are over the age of 30, Outlook is their number 1 way of connecting in a professional environment. You compare that with Generation Z. Outlook, using email, is one of their least popular ways of connecting with each other. For them, it's all about Google Docs, Zoom, or iMessage. This is a change in the way we connect. This is significant when we look at how we connect with our clients as well. Now, just quickly before we move off this theme of generational change, it's also important to look at the fact that this group are using a different dialect. In fact, I want to put up on the screen here behind me 6 of the most common emojis that Generation Z are using right now. And if you're a parent, you may want to lean in and take a photo of this screen in a few moments because I want to tell you what these emojis actually mean. And it's probably very different to what you might think they would mean. Because if you're a Generation Z, here's what these emojis actually mean. I mean, I always thought the one second from the top was probably sneezing or having a cough. The one here I use, this is my standard smiley face emoji. That's not what it means. Now, I don't know why it means extreme passive aggression, but it's important to know that. Otherwise, you can say something and what this generation will perceive in what you say versus what you mean in what you say are 2 very, very different things. So these are 3 of the title trends we've got to have our heads around if we're going to gear up for a post-COVID world. But it's not just about looking at where the world's heading and getting ready for that. The second mindset, if we're going to win in a post-COVID environment, is to think progress, not precedent. And this is so vitally important. In fact, I think one of the biggest traps I'm seeing right now with a lot of my clients is that as they think about a post-COVID world, you've got some for whom they're like, you know what, when we go back to normal, nothing's really changed. We'll just go back to the way things were pre-pandemic. And there's such a danger in that. It's like applying 2019 thinking in a 2021 or a 2022 world. It's a dangerous way to be. And yet, interestingly, I think the opposite approach is just as dangerous, this notion that, you know, everything has changed, because I don't think everything has changed either. There are some things that are just part of human nature that will stay the same as we move out of a post-pandemic world. So the challenge for all of us is, you know, how do we discern the things that have changed and make sure that we are future fit? And this challenge of not adapting to the times is something we've got to have front of mind as we go into a post-pandemic world, to be really clear on the fundamental things that have actually changed in a permanent way. Now, I love this quote here. Many of you will be familiar with Albert Einstein's insight here, his quote that said, "It's insane to do the same thing over and over again expecting to get a different result." Many of us know that. It's almost a cliche these days. Can I put it to you though, that if Einstein was defining insanity today, in light of everything that's happened over the last 24 months, I have a hunch he would actually define insanity the opposite way today. I reckon he would say that today, it is insane to do the same thing over and over again expecting to get the same result. What I mean by that is this. If you are using the same techniques, the same approaches, the same back-end systems that you were using 2 or 3 years ago, expect them to be as effective in a post-COVID world, you're going to be sorely mistaken. There's such a danger in just going back to precedent, the way we've always done things just because it worked in the past or worked in a pre-COVID world. Some of those things we've got to leave in the past. And I think the beauty of COVID is it sort of forced us to change, forced us to do things we probably should have done a few years ago in terms of adapting to change. Now, how do we make sure we don't just snap back and go back to the way things were as the world begins to return to something resembling normal? And the question I'm finding for most of my clients right now that's the most important question is this question of, what do we need to stop doing? You know, as we gear up for this post-COVID world, what are the things from the past, those issues of precedent that actually were relevant in the past but no longer are? And to ask ourselves this in a really honest way. Now, a great example of just a mechanism for doing this, I was reading a little while back of an example from Oricon. So Oricon, the big global engineering design firm, they actually went to their team a few years ago and said to them, okay, we want to get really clear on what we should stop doing. And they said to their team anonymously, we'd love you to suggest anything that we do that's a bit dumb as a business. What do we do that doesn't make sense to you? And thousands of things were submitted as ideas from their team members about the dumb things we do in this organization. And the leadership team sort of took that list of thousands, condensed it down to 100. And here's what they said. They said to the team members, okay, in 100 days, our commitment to you is we're going to either fix or get rid of all 100 of these things. And it shifted the entire culture overnight because the message was clear. We don't want to defer to precedent. We want to focus on where we need to go in the future, not just the where we've been in the past, no matter how successful that's been. In fact, a great insight here from one of the key leaders at Oricon, John McGuire, said this. He said that whole Dumb Things We Do campaign radically changed the way we do business, but also the way we think as a business. And it's interesting when we think about this idea of what do we need to stop doing, the metaphor that we often gravitate toward is this idea of pruning away things from the past. And that's a useful metaphor. But my encouragement to you is this. Many of us think about pruning as being just getting rid of dead wood. And that's part of it. But any of you who are avid gardeners would know that getting rid of dead wood is the easy bit. Because dead wood is obvious, it's brittle, it's lifeless. It actually takes a lot more discernment and courage to prune away things that are still living, still green, still getting results, but are not a part of where you need to take things into the future and that are actually diverting energy from where you need to grow in the future. And I think this is the key challenge for all of us as we go into a post-COVID world, to realize that there are some things from the past that are still good, they're still effective, they still get results, but they're no longer aligned with where you need to go as an organization. That's the stuff that's much harder to prune, but it's so essential. I love the words of Voltaire when he said this. He said, the good is often the enemy of the best. And some of the very things you need to stop doing as we go into a post-COVID world that you need to leave in the past are good things. But if you're not careful, they'll get in the way of the best things, and they'll rob you of the success and the progress that you otherwise could make in a post-COVID environment. All right, almost out of time. What I'll do before we finish up, I'll just pop my details up on the screen. Look, it'd be great to stay in touch with you. If you're on LinkedIn, I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn every day. In fact, that's sort of the main place that I hang out from a professional perspective. In fact, every morning about 8:45 or so, I give an update, a daily update of whatever trends or data have launched or been announced overnight, just whatever's new on the horizon. So if you want to connect on LinkedIn, that's a QR code on the screen that actually give you a link to my LinkedIn page. feel free to reach out and look out for those updates every morning. Just if you want to sort of stay at the cutting edge about what's actually happening in the marketplace, feel free to do that. There's also a book that came out a few months ago which sort of goes a lot deeper, looking at some of the trends we've touched on in this session today. So the book is called The New Now, and it looks at like the 10 big trends that have been accelerated because of COVID. We've talked about sort of 2 or 3 of them, those title trends. There's a lot more we could talk about if we had time. If you want to get a copy of that book, on the website there's a whole lot of links. It's actually a digital edition of this book, so this link will take you to whatever platform you use for digital books. If that'd be useful, feel free to check that out. But just as we draw this brief session to a close, I think the reality for all of us right now is that there is a natural instinctive desire to get back to normal, and I understand that. This idea of getting back to normal, you hear so many people talking about that, but there's actually a danger if we're too eager in just getting back to normal. In fact, I love this insight from a woman named Alex Badenoch, who's one of the executives at Telstra. She said, if our ambition is to merely get back to normal, we might miss the moment. And the opportunities this moment presents to change and do the things required to win in the future. And I know that it's been a tough 2 years. I mean, you've done incredibly well to still be standing, still be in business, still be here. And I know you've added a lot of value to your clients. You've built a lot of trust and affinity over the last 2 years. The challenge is, how do we make sure we're geared up, not just to thrive in this environment now as we exit this pandemic, but gear up to thrive well into the future. So I hope that has been useful. All the very best, and enjoy the break over the Christmas New Year period. Cheers. Thanks so much.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Shaythai, Head of Accounting for Intuit QuickBooks in Australia. And just before I let you know a little bit about me, can I just say thank you? I couldn't be more proud to be part of the Australian accounting and bookkeeping tribe. It's been an absolutely brutal couple of years, and it's been you guys supporting our beloved small business economy who have done it so tough, but are now starting to see that light under the lockdown. So as I said, my name's Shay. I'm a fellow of the CA ANZ, and I've worked in practice for most of my career, mostly as a change champion for digital innovation and exceptional client service. This doesn't by any means make me the oracle, but one of the beauties of my role is that I'm able to see that whole spectrum of firms right across the industry, and I can share some of the best learnings, I guess, as my contribution towards raising the tide for all advisors and also clients in turn. So today I'm going to talk about 4 strategies you might consider to set your firm up for success in 2022. There's so much opportunity. We're closer to our clients now than we ever have been, really, through all that hard stuff we had to do together through COVID. And I know that we're really, really tired and we need a break, and we desperately want to travel for a holiday. So let this be, a seed today that you let marinate over the holiday period so that you can work on it and develop it when you come back refreshed and energized in 2022. So, getting into our first strategy, we all know, and we have known forever, that for our business clients to survive in these uncertain times, they really need a trusted advisor, a wingman or a wingwoman, and a solid cash flow forecast. So there's no debating, the most common reason that small businesses fail is because they run out of money. We know this, we've known this for a long time. So as advisors, we can help our clients with a cash flow forecast and partner with them to see, if they'll really stick to the plan. Let's help them stick to the plan. But what else? Is there anything else that we might be able to control as advisors to really help our clients with their cash flow? And I believe there is. I believe there's 2 things around the timing of our fees and also around ATO debt. So let's talk about the timing of our fees. We can control how we impact our clients' cash flow by the way we bill our clients, and we can choose to make it better. When we move to monthly billing, it not only has a massive benefit for our firms, your firms, taking that lumpiness out of the cash flow and getting rid of, bad debts and all the time we spend maybe on bad debts or thinking about it at night when we're trying to sleep. But it's in directly supporting your clients' cash flow recovery as well. If they can afford to keep paying you, then you can keep helping them. It's awesome. And then we know how critical, we know how critical our relationship is with our small businesses as our trusted advisors and helping them through this post-lockdown recovery. If you didn't already know, and as a new person to Intuit, I learn a lot of things about our product every day, but you can actually do recurring invoices directly within QBOA, which is pretty awesome. Otherwise, we absolutely love our friends over at Practice Ignition, who can bring your engagement letters and your billing together and integrate with QBO for this beautiful, seamless, automated engagement and recurring billing function for your firm. So in 2022, let's make a plan to move to monthly billing. The other thing we can control for our clients to help them with their cash flow is around ATO debt. So bless the ATO for all the deferrals and payment arrangements and leniency, all the things that they've put on pause for a little while around their compliance, in light of the pandemic. Bless them. Thank you, thank you, thank goodness. In a statement that I read recently that the ATO made to Accountants Daily, they did say that they're mindful of the environment in which clients are operating, particularly those clients in extended lockdowns, and they will tailor their enforcement approach for clients who are adversely impacted by these lockdowns. So as we are coming into this time, seeing lockdowns lift, we can bet our bottom dollar that we will see an uptick in lodgement and collection compliance activity by the ATO, which of course means for our clients that ATO debts need to be paid at some point. So as advisors, we can add significant value to our clients with around their ATO debts by taking on this negotiation process with the ATO, which we've done forever and a day, but most importantly now, and work hand in hand with our clients with that cash flow plan, not only to survive the post-lockdown recovery, but to ensure that our clients are protected from garnishee notices, statutory demands, and any of these new disclosures of business tax debts through to credit reporting bureaus. So in 2022, let's be deliberate and proactive about sharing the importance of tax planning and that ATO payment planning with our clients and make sure that we're billing the value of this work properly. So a second strategy, as I've mentioned earlier, we've never been closer to our clients. A gift from the pandemic, I suppose, if you want to think about it that way, is really, this ability for us to have forged huge amount of goodwill with our clients. Sometimes we've done it in a really sustainable, rewarding way, and sometimes perhaps we might have been giving away a few too many things for free. Nevertheless, the opportunity is there to leverage this goodwill and help your clients also help you in turn. So remember when we used to go on aeroplanes and the flight attendant would tell us, the oxygen mask will fall from above. Remember to put your own mask on before helping others. And the whole idea around this was if you passed out, you can't help your little girl or that big burly businessman sitting next to you. You have to get yourself sorted out first. So with all of our clients needing so much help throughout COVID, we put so much consideration into their ability to pay. We need to help them. They need us. They're struggling. So we won't bill them. We won't engage properly. If we continue to service our clients for free, we actually risk our entire firm. So the obvious and most dramatic way that this happens is when we overextend. We do too much for free and we overextend our business. But if we do retain these clients, if we don't get to that sort of immediate risk point, we also risk losing our clients, our paying clients down the track, who would, maybe have paid you for the services you didn't bill for, if we had been brave enough to do that throughout that time, we risk losing them when maybe we have to sack them because now they expect a whole bunch of stuff for free. So in 2022, let's avoid passing out from lack of oxygen and take a moment to properly review our client engagements. Has the scope broadened? Have we missed billing a critical piece of work? Let's review our engagements and let's clearly communicate a new engagement scope with all of our clients so that we can honour that goodwill that we've built over the lockdowns and all through that COVID pain, and really forge a mutually beneficial, trusted advisor relationship for the longer term. Self-employment. So we're all aware that there's this global shift towards self-employment. We know because in our industry, in the accounting industry, we see it all the time. We have rock stars that, might have had a gutful of working with a large firm, and they take their courage and their experience and they start their own firm. And I love seeing this. And why not? Because the barriers to entry are super low. Just your laptop and your brain and some good cloud accounting software and you're off. So there's also this emergence of the gig economy. And to this, I think when we add to this kind of huge uptick as well in side hustles, I know everyone I speak to has got a side hustle going on, where we're seeing people supplementing their income with freelance work, or they're actually working on growing their side hustle to sprout into a full-blown business at some point before they take that leap out of secure employment. Whatever it is, these clients are moving, well, they're no longer just a pre-fill individual tax return. But most of the time, as I'm sure you would have experienced, that jump to a full-blown cloud accounting platform is a bit too much for them. Doing a full bank rec, they really need something just on their phone so that they can do their invoicing and snap their receipts and just sort their bank statement between personal and business or whatever's relevant for tax. And you, as the advisor, need that thing that is a little bit more organised than a shoebox, please, or an Excel spreadsheet, or peeking through bank statements at the end of the year. My husband has a side hustle called Revhead Harry. He is motorsport crazy and he's always worked in the field, and his day job is as the general manager of a motorsport facility, and he's really excited about seeing if this might be the first fully sustainable facility in Australia, which is very exciting, and I'm obviously excited about that. And even though he has that, he still has a side hustle. And he used to give me all of his receipts and ask me to do his invoicing out of my QuickBooks file. No, honey, I don't have time to do that anymore. So now he's using QuickBooks Self-Employed app. And so my Revhead Harry husband and 750 million side hustlers and giggers and self-employed people around the world are using the app as well. And it's only $4.50 at the moment I think that still qualifies for Black Friday. So really, really affordable. So at the end of the year, as advisors, all we need to do is export all the goss out the app and it's ready for the tax return. It's so good. So in 2022, put some thought to your client base that are self-employed or side hustling or whatever that thing is, and let's get them out of the shoeboxes and into the app. If they get serious about growing their side hustle and they've been using the app for a while, of course they'll find the functionality in QuickBooks Online very familiar, and that's going to be a much easier lift than from shoebox straight into cloud accounting. And obviously so much better than Excel or shoeboxes for you to do tax returns. Talent and payroll. So one of the biggest investments for a business is its people. And from our accounting firm perspective, perspective, so from an accounting business's perspective, the war on talent is really, really real. And winning it can be really complex. But if you can do one thing, just one thing to make sure that you're in the running, or even in the stadium, or even in the suburb that the stadium lives in, to be part of the talent race, let's please be incredibly clear about flexibility and ongoing work from home or hybrid work policy in 2022. Certainty and clarity is as good as anything. So as you're crafting what this could look like for your firms, which doesn't have a cookie cutter approach, it definitely is different for every firm and every team, please consider and interrogate the motivations that are baked into that. So think about, is it in your team members' best interest as an individual human, where they're at in their career, to come into the office? You know, for example, is that critical sort of learning by osmosis really important for them? Or are the things you've baked into that policy really there for your best interest? Is it about monitoring and doing things the way we've always done them? I'm not sure that I really believe in the Great Resignation. What I see is more of a great reset within our industry. And I think we need to be putting some consideration around where our expectations are around the GP in our firm. So what's the gross profit that we do expect? And I think what better motivation, as we're thinking about this, we know our staff are becoming more demanding around their salaries, and this is affecting our GP. What better motivation to partner with your human team and some amazing technology to enable them to be their most awesome and to maybe mitigate some of the effects on our GP. So in 2022, let's make sure that your hybrid work expectations are transparent, really well thought out, and clearly communicated to your team so that you can put yourself in the game for attracting and retaining great talent. On the client side, as we said, payroll is one of the largest expenses in business. And when we get it wrong, it can just about put our business under. So one of the single biggest misunderstandings we hear, and I'm sure you hear this all the time from your clients, we hear from our small business customers, is that they think if they pay above award, they don't have to worry about the details of the award. OMG. Payroll, and I'm probably preaching here, payroll compliance is just so critical and so easy to get wrong, even when business owners are really well intentioned. So as we're approaching 2022, we're thinking about STP2. STP2 is great for the ATO, but it also exposes more businesses to more avenues of risk. And if they're not using good tools and they're not investing in an appropriately skilled payroll practitioner like yourselves, then they are really exposing themselves to some serious risk. So for 2022, let's all make sure our payroll clients are protected with the robustness of something like QB Payroll and the peace of mind coming from your transaction services around payroll or your oversight services that sit around payroll. So a couple of, I obviously get very excited about digital innovation. So a couple of real gems and genuine gifts coming down the line for us as advisors as well as our clients. I'm sure everyone's heard about E-Invoicing, and I do get very excited about it. So excuse my fucking about here, but the amazing benefits, so many benefits for both the advisor and the small business. But really, these billions of dollars that we can save across the economy in processing and late payment fees is just game changing. And yes, look, before we ask it, I get this question all the time, it will see, E-Invoicing will bring about the demise of some of our favourite OCR-based technologies. But We're not there yet, and we won't be there for a number of years. So there is this number of years where we'll see e-invoicing living in beautiful harmony, side by side, our friends, you know, with the invoice and receipt capture technology as the business world adopts e-invoicing, and also as we see other emerging technologies like Slip for digital receipt capture. We do expect e-invoicing adoption to be mandated sooner rather than later. And so if I was in your shoes, I'd be getting in early and getting my clients in early to avoid the panic and the stampede. QuickBooks Online, if you don't know, does integrate with Link4, Luca Plus and Promise. So it's easy to find the right e-invoicing solution for your clients. Open banking. So we've talked a lot about open banking, but two things that really excite me about open banking from an advisor perspective: the breadth of choice for clients, amazing. Increased competition is good for everyone, and we love seeing this. But the other thing is around genuine access to real-time data. You know, we've had to be backwards looking for a really long time. Cloud has brought us the ability to be almost real time, but what open banking brings us is genuinely real time. And that's what's going to be really game changing for us in the advisor space. And lastly, really, really quickly, keep your eye out for salary streaming to take hold of the market, where we're allowing this risk-free environment for your employees and your clients' employees to access their own salaries as they earn it. And really help them with that financial wellness piece. So to summarize really quickly, because I've talked for way too long, practical things we can do in 2022. Let's control the cash flow controllables that we can for our clients. Let's move to monthly billing, effectively give our clients a lay-by on their fees, help them out. And let's help them see the benefits of that. And let's grab hold of those ATO payment plans and make sure that we're coupling that with a beautiful cash flow forecast so that we are really leaning into that critical role we play to help our clients mitigate their compliance risk. Let's honour the client goodwill that we've built. Let's do that engagement review. Let's make sure we are capturing everything, because we can be generous, but there is a point where being generous becomes risky for our business. So let's make sure we are receiving the benefits of the value that we give to our clients as well. And let's get our self-employed peeps all onto the self-employed app. Let's help them out and help you at the same time. As I said, let's have a look at being really clear and really deliberate about our hybrid work policy. And let's think about, is it for me? As in, is it for me, the firm owner, or is it really enabling the team to be the best kind of, to be on their A game? And of course, let's make sure that our clients are protected as they're opening back up out of lockdown from payroll risk. And as I just mentioned in that last one, keeping our eyes around these couple of digital innovations around e-invoicing. Let's see if we can step into that early. And of course, keep your eyes on open banking and also salary streaming as that comes. Thank you so much for having me today. So excited. First Pro Power Hour. I have absolutely blown my time limit. Thank you for having me. I'm now going to hand back to our fabulous host, Megan Wood. Over to you, Megs.
Thanks, Shay. I hope you're all enjoying the content so far. Now, we've heard some great concepts around things to consider as we move out of the pandemic and improve our productivity. So I thought I'd just show you just a few examples of how the QuickBooks Suite can help bring that to life. So there's three areas I wanted to walk you through today. The first one is probably more around goodwill or increasing revenue than productivity. But as you support your clients out of the pandemic, I thought the QuickBooks Cashflow Planner would be a good tool to check out, because it helps you strike up a great cash flow conversation with your small business clients. The second item I want to take you through is all about you and your workflow. So we'll check out the Work tab within QuickBooks Online Accountant and see how it can help you keep a handle on all the work that's going through your practice so nothing falls through the cracks. And lastly, we'll look at how you can save time by invoicing your fixed fee clients using the recurring invoices functionality in QuickBooks Online Accountant. So it's something that you can set and forget. So let's get started with the Cashflow Planner. Now, we all know that cash flow is king when it comes to running a small business, and we know what an incredible job you have all done navigating your clients through the pandemic. So in the vein of getting back to business, I'd like to walk you through the QuickBooks Online Cashflow Planner tool and explore how it can help you proactively talk to your clients about what's possible. Okay, so let's get started by selecting Cashflow and then Planner from the QuickBooks Online dashboard. Now here you'll see the client's historical as well as projected cash balances based on the client's data. Now you can view this information in a money in, money out view as well. And over here, you can see this information in various date ranges. Now, importantly, the information that you're looking at is based on your client's connected bank accounts. So the more data in QuickBooks, the more bank and credit cards accounts that are connected, the better or the more complete the projection will be. Now, the software uses machine learning to review your client's historical data to project what could possibly happen in the future. Now, a great example of this is, say you've got a client who has a customer that pays their invoices in 45 days, not 30 days. QuickBooks will factor that into the projection of that customer's payment in your client's projection. So it's incredibly smart picking up those historical trends that have occurred. Now down here, you can see all of the items that are included in this projection. So you can see invoices and expenses that have already been keyed into QuickBooks. You could also see items that QuickBooks has predicted, again, based on your client's financial history. And you'll also see projected items such as a BAS payment, as well as a payroll payment if your small business happens to have employees. Now, this is where I think the fun starts. All of these items can be edited and to see what impact it would have on your client's cash flow. You can also add items, again, to see what impact they'll have. So I thought we'd have a look at two examples. The first being a tax refund that your client's going to get, and the second being they're thinking about opening up a shopfront. So they want to see what impact that has. So let's have a look at the impact that'll have on their cash flow. So to add a new item, simply click on Add Item and then add the relevant details. So for this tax refund, we're going to say that'll land on the 15th of the month, and it's going to be for $5,000. It'll definitely be money coming in, and it's a one-time item. So if we select Save, and we'll now scroll up to the top of the screen and have a look at our cash balance, you can see a nice hockey stick effect there from that particular tax refund. Okay, so let's add another item, and this one is going to be for our rental. So we're going to say, so let's start at the middle of January next year. We will give it a name, being we're going to rent a shop on High Street, and it's going to be $2,000 a month. Now that'll definitely be money going out, and we're going to repeat this particular item. You can set the schedule that you would like, so we're going to say monthly. It'll occur on the 15th day of the month, and we're not going to put an end date. We select Save, and if we scroll up and have a look at our cash balance, you can see a little bit of a divot there for January. But the joy is you can actually have a look at it over a variety of different date ranges. So if we were to look at this over 24 months, we can see that we're going to get ourselves in a little bit of trouble in the middle of the year. So we can just simply come down and make an adjustment to that particular item. So we might suggest a more affordable $850 pop-up shop instead of a shopfront, and we will update that series. And again, have a look at the impact it's had on our cash balance. So we can see that's a little bit more doable. Now, importantly, the cash flow planner is for planning purposes, so it doesn't impact your client's QuickBooks data at all. So you can create as many scenarios as you like with your client. And once you're happy with one, you can produce a report by clicking on the Export as PDF button. And you can see on the report that our diagram of the cash balances is displayed, and then all the detail is outlined below. And if we have a look here, we can see there's our tax refund as well as our high street rental factored in. So that's it. That's the QuickBooks Cashflow Planner. It's provided as part of your QuickBooks subscription, so it's ready to go. Definitely worth a look, as it's such a great way for you to provide some comfort to your clients about what the future might look like, but it also makes you look very proactive in the process. Okay, so let's change gears a little and focus more on you and your workflows. So the pandemic has certainly made us all review how we manage our workloads online, particularly when we've got a distributed workforce. So we've seen firms manage their workflows using tools like Excel, which is what we used in practice, whiteboards, Trello, daily stand-up, Post-it notes, all sorts of ways. And I'm going to throw another one into the mix for you to consider, which is using the Work tab within QuickBooks Online Accountant. So let's take a look at how it works. So here we are in QuickBooks Online Accountant, and this is where you house all of your clients, including those that aren't on QuickBooks. The dashboard provides some key info about their banking status, an access point for prep for taxes. And you can also see the lead employee for the client outlined over here. Now, when it comes to accessing your clients, you can sort by the column heading here, or you can type in the first few letters in the search bar. And we've also added a new filter that enables you to look at your clients through employee, so who's the lead on that particular job. So we're going to jump into the Work tab and see what we can do in there. So we click on Work over here. So the Work tab lets you see all of the jobs, all the projects that are going through your practice at the moment. And excuse the lagging dates here, I recorded this one last week. You can sort the info by client jobs, by firm jobs, so you can actually even put firm projects in here, or you may even list just a single client to see what's going on with their job. You can also sort this information by employee. Now, I've got admin rights, so I can see everyone's, but most employees would just see their jobs. And you can also sort it by project, so that gives a nice overview of the projects in the office. You can select tasks. This outlines all of the tasks that have been allocated. And you can also check out any requests, so any client requests you've sent out for more information, for example. The QuickBooks toggle lets you see QuickBooks data included in the list as well. And you can look at this info in various formats. So a lot of people like the list view. So you can sort that by custom dates, etc. But you might want to see what's on for today, or potentially look at what's due this week. So great for a team meeting. And you can also view this information via a calendar view. So we'll go back to our Canva, which is the one I prefer. Okay, so the Work tab is all about managing your jobs or projects, so nothing falls through the cracks. So I thought we would have a look at two different types of projects that you can set up. We're going to start by clicking on Create Project. So the first thing you can do is select a template. If you've got a one-off job, you don't need to set up a template, but you can see here there's a variety of templates provided with the work area, and you can also create your own, which is what we're going to have a play with today. So I'm going to select the Simple Onboarding Project, and I give the project a name because you may find you've got multiple projects against one particular client. We select the client from our list, so I'm going to pick on Top and Tail Landscaping today, and we're going to set a due date. So in this case, I'm going to say we need to have this done by the 24th of December. I want to show you the repeat button. It's a great one for those recurring projects that you might have. So think about your BAS preparation work or your monthly meetings, etc. You can set these up to repeat so that they're already in your Kanban board, so you know what work is coming down the line. We then assign the project to a person, and we can see in this details area, this is basically an outline of this particular project. Now, the key components are these down here. So these are all the tasks that make up this particular project. And you can add additional tasks on the fly if you like. But for each task, what you need to do is just go through and set the due date. So we know we've got to get it done by the 24th of December. So we kind of work backwards a little bit and work out when when this particular task needs to be completed. We then assign it to the appropriate team member. And this show details area here I think is great because it enables you to outline what you have to do as part of this task. So it's great for getting your team members all doing the same thing, but it's also great for newer team members to know what they need to do to follow your processes. So all that you need to do now is just go through for each of these tasks and update the due date and the team member that it's allocated to. Okay, so with all of that done, we're now going to save that, and our Kanban board has been updated. Now, what I thought we might do is just jump into that particular client, so top and tail landscaping, so that you can see the tasks more easily. Okay, so here are all of the tasks that we've just assigned, etc. Now, updating any of these tiles is really simple. So if you need to change the due date for any of these tasks, you simply click on that component and change the date. And the same with who it's assigned to. You can just click on it and adjust who is going to do that part of the job. Now, when you want to update a task, so this one, say this one is done, so we're going to mark the done button. You'll see the project tile update. See how that moved? I'll complete another one so you can see it move again. If only it was that easy. So you can see there's 2 of 5 jobs that have been, 2 of 5 tasks have been completed. So again, great way to keep track. Okay, so the next project I want to show you is one where I've set it up to auto allocate the dates. So I'm going to select this client engagement project and give it a name. But I've set this one up because I know how long it's going to take to do each task. So it's automatically set for us the due date as well as the task date. So see how the due date there is already defined because it knows how long it's going to take to do this particular project. And down here, all of my tasks are also being given dates automatically because again, I know how long it's going to take. So all that I need to do for this type of project is just allocate who's going to complete the work. And we select save. So that's a very quick overview of how the work functionality in QuickBooks Online can help you productively manage your team as well as your clients so that nothing falls through the cracks. Okay, so recurring invoices. So according to industry data, 85% of accounting and bookkeeping firms do a combination of time as well as fixed fee billing. The other 15% only do fixed fee billing. So the next feature that I wanted to show you is sort of a bit of a productivity hack that helps you automate invoicing those fixed fee clients that you've got. So let's take a look. Okay, so if you're not aware, in QuickBooks Online Accountant, you get your own plus file to manage your firm, and that includes payroll for unlimited employees, so it's definitely worth a look. Now, when it comes to invoicing, you can go through the normal sales area, but I wanted to take you through the projects area because it tends to give you more information about each job. Now, you've got to turn on the projects area if you want to use it, but you can see here, these are all of the current jobs that are going through the practice. And you'll see these are the same jobs that were in the work area, so everything's synced here. So here are the 2 projects that we set up for top and tail landscaping. So let's click on the client engagement project, and you can see there is no income or any cost associated with this project at the moment. So for me to set up a fixed fee for this particular client, I'm just going to go to Add to Project, and I'm going to select Invoice. Now for this particular recurring invoice, I'm going to charge the client a monthly bookkeeping fee or service, and also my QuickBooks Online subscription. Now instead of selecting Save and Close or Save and Send as you would normally, we're going to select Make Recurring. And by doing that, you now set up your recurring invoice template for this client. So you can do things like you can create the invoice a certain number of days in advance if you'd like to review it before it goes out. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to say automatically send it out. Some people like to CC themselves so that they know that the actual invoice has gone out. And then you set up the interval as to how frequently you want this to go out. So I'm going to say, look, monthly, it'll go out on the first day of the month. I'm going to start that today. And I'm going to end it on the 30th of June, 2022. and then I select Save Template. And that's it. It's already set, ready to go. So if you ever need to review or edit any of your recurring transactions, let's go to Settings and into Recurring Transactions. And there you'll see all of the recurring transactions that you've got set up for your fixed fee clients. So if you ever need to edit any of these, so we might edit the top and tail one, you just need to go over to the Edit button on the right-hand side here, where you can duplicate it, you can pause it, you can skip the next date, you can even delete it. So it's a great little facility. So that's recurring invoices. It's a great little time saver that sort of saves you a little bit of admin and hopefully gets you paid a little more regularly. And for the 85% of you that invoice time, we'll cover how you do that in QuickBooks Online Accountant in another Pro Power Hour. So I hope that was helpful and hopefully you learned something new as well. So I also wanted to remind you that all of the features that we just had a look at are available to you right now as part of the Pro Advisor program. So when you sign up for QuickBooks Online Accountant, you automatically become a member of the Pro Advisor program. So this program lets you unlock some really good benefits like access to QuickBooks Online Accountant, which we just had a quick glimpse of a sec ago, QuickBooks Tax powered by Logit, and QuickBooks Online Plus, which we also had a look at, that again gives you access to payroll for unlimited employees. You also get access to wholesale pricing benefits and a whole heap more. So if you're already a Pro Advisor and you want to see what you're entitled to as part of the tier that you may be in, just go into QuickBooks Online Accountant, click on Pro Advisor on the left-hand side and benefits, and then you'll see what benefits you've got access to today. You can also visit intuit.me/pro perks to learn more. So with that, I'm now going to ask Shay to join us again so that we can go through some Q&A. Okay, well, actually, now that I've seen the time, I think we're going to have to skip Q&A today, guys, so that you can get back to your day. But I'd love to thank Michael and Shay for a very informative session, and I want to thank you guys for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you again in a new Power Hour edition in early 2022. So until then, please stay safe. Thank you.